Weddings are meant to weave families into tapestries of joy, but some threads are laced with betrayal. This is the story of Sarah Bennett, a woman cast aside by those she loved most, who turned her pain into a plan to unravel their perfect facade. Welcome to a tale where love is a mask, and vengeance lifts the veil. They say weddings unite families, but mine tore us apart. I was never meant to be the villain. The outcast daughter, perhaps, the overlooked shadow, but not the villain. That role belonged to my sister, Amelia, my rival, my betrayer. The day she announced her engagement, we sat at Mom's polished dining table in our Philadelphia home, the same table that held decades of Sunday dinners. Amelia swept in, her emerald dress shimmering, and raised her hand without sitting. The diamond on her finger caught the light like a star. "Evan proposed," she said, her voice breathless with practiced delight. "We're getting married in June." The room erupted, Mom's tears, Dad's booming toast, cousins clapping like a rehearsed choir. I, Sarah, sat frozen, my fork heavy in my hand. Evan wasn't just Amelia's fiancé. He was my ex. 3 years had passed since our breakup, but the scars lingered. We'd shared college dreams, late-night talks of marriage, children, a life together. Until Amelia stole him. I never knew the details. A party, a whispered secret, a betrayal in the shadows. One day, he was mine. The next, he was hers. When I confronted her, her smile was a blade. "You should have held on tighter, Sarah. I always get what I want." Now, they flaunted their joy, daring me to play along. I smiled, my face a mask, while inside, a spark of vengeance ignited. The weeks before the wedding were agony. Amelia played the radiant bride, her Instagram flooded with cake tastings, dress fittings, and gushing captions. Mom and Dad poured money into her society event of the year, Mom boasting, "Everyone who matters will be there." Everyone who mattered, words that stung, reminding me I'd always been less in their eyes. I tried to stay distant, to bury the hurt, but Amelia pushed too far. At her bridal shower, champagne flowed, gifts towered, and she stood radiant, spinning tales of her perfect love. Then her eyes found mine, her smile honeyed venom. "I couldn't have done this without Sarah," she said, her voice dripping. "She taught me exactly what not to do in love." The room's laughter sliced deeper than any wound. That was the moment I vowed, Amelia's wedding wouldn't be her triumph. It would be her downfall. The first step was knowledge. Weddings hide secrets, money, lies, desires, and I knew where to look. Evan was my edge. I knew his flaws, his temptations, better than Amelia ever could. It took days to find the crack, late-night texts, hushed calls, a trail leading to another woman. A co-worker, young and reckless, her name in his phone as L. He wasn't just unfaithful, he was careless, leaving digital footprints I gathered into a hidden folder. Screenshots of flirty messages, emails arranging meetings, photos of them at a bar, too close. The fairy tale was fracturing, and I held the hammer. But weddings aren't just romance, they're money. Amelia's greed demanded perfection, imported orchids, a 5-course menu, a gown hand-stitched in Milan. The costs soared, bankrolled by Mom and Dad, but also by Evan's accounts. And Evan had secrets of his own, gambling debts, late notices, loans he couldn't repay. I found them in his desk, buried under papers, overdue bills, threatening letters from a creditor named Marco, a man whose name carried whispers of danger. A missed payment to someone who didn't forgive debts. My smile grew. This wasn't a wedding anymore. It was a fuse, lit and burning. The rehearsal dinner tested my restraint. The church glowed with candles, music floating through stained glass light. Amelia glided down the aisle in a silk rehearsal gown, her smile regal, as if she'd already been crowned. "She's perfect," Mom whispered, gripping my arm. "Perfect. Fragile as glass." At the dinner, I leaned close to Amelia, my voice low. "Evan's been busy, hasn't he? Ever wonder where he goes on those late nights?" Her smile flickered, a crack in her composure. I didn't press, just planted the seed, letting doubt take root. Doubt is a slow poison, stronger than truth. That night, in my childhood bedroom, I stared at the ceiling, my plan sharpening. This wasn't just about Evan or Amelia. It was about years of being dismissed, mocked, erased. Amelia's wedding was meant to make her the family's queen. Instead, it would make me the architect of her ruin. When the veil lifted, when the vows were spoken, the world would see what I'd known all along. Her love was a lie, her crown built on deceit. And I would tear it all down. The week before the wedding was a frenzy. Florists stormed our Philadelphia home with armfuls of roses, seamstresses stitched final hems, caterers bickered over menu details. Mom and Dad spun in circles, desperate to craft Amelia's perfect day. Amelia floated above it all, her smile radiant, her demands ceaseless, as if she were already crowned. She thought herself untouchable. I, Sarah Bennett, knew otherwise. My plan began quietly, surgical in its precision. Evan's affair with his coworker left a digital trail. Texts, emails, careless moments I'd collected. I printed one message, simple and damning: "Wish I was with you tonight, not her." I slipped it into Amelia's makeup bag, tucked among brushes and powders, imagining her face when she found it, the doubt, the fracture in her fairy tale. I didn't linger to watch. Revenge thrives in silence. 2 days later, I struck again. Over lunch with Uncle Martin, a gossip-hungry loudmouth, I let slip a careless remark about Evan's gambling habit, feigning regret for saying too much. His eyes gleamed, and by evening, the family buzzed with whispers of Evan's debts. At the rehearsal brunch, Amelia's composure cracked. "Are you hiding something?" She snapped at Evan in front of the cousins, her voice sharp. His confusion was convincing, but I knew his lies. The seed of doubt was sprouting, and I watered it carefully. The bachelorette party was my next stage. Amelia had rented a rooftop bar, champagne flowing, her friends glittering in sequins. She basked in the spotlight, until the music stopped. A new sound cut through, Evan's voice, recorded from a late-night call I'd captured. "Baby, she'll never know. Meet me tomorrow." The crowd froze, glasses clinking to a halt. Amelia's smile vanished, her eyes darting. I slipped my phone into my purse, having synced the audio to the DJ system under the guise of helping. She laughed it off, blaming a glitch, but the doubt sank deeper, a poison spreading. 3 nights before the wedding, I escalated. Evan's debt collector Marco had a reputation for ruthlessness. I'd left breadcrumbs, an anonymous email, a whispered name in a dive bar, leading him to me. He cornered me in a parking lot, his voice low and threatening, demanding payment. "I don't owe you," I said, handing him a folded note with Evan's name and wedding details. "He's marrying into money. Crash the party. Take what's yours." His smile was a wolf's, cold and hungry. "Think I will." I didn't flinch. Chaos, once loosed, doesn't stop. The rehearsal dinner was the tipping point. The venue glowed with candlelight, Amelia radiant in white satin, raising her glass for a toast. "To love," she said, her voice a melody. A woman's voice interrupted, sharp and unsteady, from the doorway. "Love? Funny how it looks at midnight." Heads turned. It was Lily, Evan's mistress, clutching her phone, her eyes blazing. I'd invited her, sent her the screenshots, the messages, a forged note in Evan's name. "Meet me at the dinner. I want them to know." Her timing was perfect, my design flawless. Amelia's glass shattered on the floor, wine pooling like blood. Evan's face went gray. "Is this true?" Amelia hissed, her voice venom. Lily thrust her phone forward, its screen glowing with texts, photos, proof of his betrayal. The room erupted, gasps, whispers, phones raised to capture the scene. Evan stammered denials, but the evidence was ironclad. I sat back, sipping my wine, watching their world fracture. But Amelia didn't break. She was a fighter, always had been. The next morning, she cornered me in Mom's kitchen, her hair wild, eyes red. "You did this," she spat, her finger jabbing. "You sent her. You're spreading lies to ruin me." Her rage was a wildfire, desperate and raw. I tilted my head, my voice calm. "Ruin you? Maybe you're doing that yourself, Amelia." Her breath hitched, fear flickering in her eyes. She knew, deep down, the truth was her enemy. The wedding day dawned golden, deceptive in its beauty. Amelia's gown hung in the bridal suite, a ghostly silhouette. Flowers towered, guests filled the pews, eager for a spectacle. But the cracks were spreading. Evan paced, snapping at his groomsmen. Amelia locked herself in the bathroom, demanding reassurance. I moved unseen, a shadow with purpose. In my purse, I carried contracts, proof of Evan's debts, missed payments, letters from Marco. Marrying him wasn't just a mistake, It was a trap. In my pocket, a flash drive held the final blow. Photos, videos, messages, a catalogue of their lies. At the perfect moment, with every eye watching, I'd unveil it all. As the organ swelled, I stood at the back of the church, the music a prelude to ruin. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice for years of being dismissed, mocked, erased. Amelia's walk down the aisle wouldn't lead to triumph. It would lead to her destruction. And I would lift the veil. The church brimmed with the scent of lilies and anticipation, the air heavy with perfume and expectation. Guests fanned themselves with programs, their murmurs blending with the string quartet's delicate notes, a facade of joy draped over the sanctuary. Beneath it, a storm brewed, its pulse matching my own. I, Sarah Bennett, stood near the back pew, my hands steady, my purse heavy with contracts, proof of Evan's debts, and a flash drive in my pocket, burning with the weight of truth. Today, Amelia's perfect world would unravel. Amelia appeared at the church's threshold, her lace gown shimmering, her veil a cascade of silk. The crowd gasped, admiring, but I saw the strain in her jaw, the quiver in her lips. She wasn't radiant, she was fragile, a glass crown ready to shatter. Her eyes flicked to Evan at the altar, his suit crisp but his face slick with sweat, hands twitching like a cornered animal. The perfect couple was already fracturing, and I held the hammer. The ceremony began, the priest's voice droning about love and eternity. My focus was on the projector screen, meant for hymns but rigged for my purpose. It would soon display my evidence: texts, photos, debt records, a gallery of betrayal. Guests smiled, expecting a fairy tale. I waited to deliver truth. "Do you, Evan, take Amelia to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the priest intoned. Evan hesitated, his lips parting without sound. Murmurs rippled through the pews. Amelia gripped his hand, her knuckles white. I do," he rasped, his voice thin. The priest turned to her. "And do you, Amelia?" The projector flickered to life. A screenshot filled the screen, Evan's text to his mistress: "Wish I was with you, not her." Gasps erupted, head swiveling. Amelia froze, her mouth agape. Images cycled, texts, emails, photos of Evan with Lily, gambling contracts, debt notices, each one a nail in their facade. The church exploded into chaos. Shouts, whispers, phones raised to record. Amelia turned to Evan, her voice ablade. "What is this?" He shook his head, stammering. It's not." "Don't lie," she screamed, her voice shattering the sacred air. The priest raised his hands, pleading for calm, but the tide had turned. Amelia tore off her veil, flinging it to the floor. "You humiliated me," she shrieked, shoving Evan. He stumbled, raising his hands. "Someone set me up." The doors crashed open. Marco, the debt collector, strode in, his suit sharp, his eyes cold as steel. "Evan Reed," he called, his voice slicing through the din. 75,000. Pay now, or I collect my way." The congregation fell silent, horror settling like dust. Evan's face went white, a man staring at his own grave. "Not here," he pleaded. "Please." Marco's smile was predatory. "Pay. Now." Amelia turned to Evan, her voice trembling. "Is this true?" His silence was answer enough. Amelia's scream tore through the church. Guests surged from pews, some fleeing, others filming, whispers of scandal spreading. Amelia clawed at her gown, its lace a cage, and struck Evan with her bouquet, petals scattering like ash. "You lied. You ruined everything." Evan reached for her, but she recoiled, her voice raw. "Get out." Marco grabbed Evan's arm, dragging him down the aisle as guests parted, stunned. Amelia collapsed on the altar steps, sobbing, her mascara streaking, the perfect bride reduced to wreckage. I slipped out a side door, unseen, my work complete. The reception never happened. Vendors packed up, guests dispersed, their whispers carrying the tale. By evening, social media blazed with clips, the slideshow, Amelia's screams, Marco's entrance. Headlines followed: Philadelphia wedding collapses in betrayal. Bride's dream ends in debt and deceit. Amelia's name became a punchline, Evan's a warning. He vanished, hounded by collectors and lawsuits, his life bankrupt in every sense. Their empire of love crumbled, their names poison. Weeks later, I visited the churchyard alone. Wilted lilies littered the ground, their petals curling in the sun. The silence held echoes of that day's chaos. I knelt where Amelia had fallen, my voice a whisper. You thought you were untouchable, but truth cuts deeper than charm. I stood, brushing dirt from my hands. Revenge wasn't joy, it was clarity, a quiet space where I could breathe. Amelia stopped calling, her presence erased, her reputation in ruins. Evan was gone, a ghost chased by his debts. Their wedding was meant to crown them, to seal their triumph. Instead, it was their noose, and I'd pulled it tight. Walking past bridal shops now, I pause, watching women twirl in gowns, their eyes alight with dreams. I wonder if they know how fragile those dreams are, a single lie, a hidden truth, enough to shatter them. And if someone like me waits, patient and unseen, their fairy tale could end before it begins. I walked away not as the forgotten sister, but as the architect of justice, my power no longer silent but resounding. Thus ends The Wedding Veil of Lies, a tale of a sister who turned betrayal into retribution, proving that truth is the sharpest weapon. Stay tuned for more stories where love is a facade, and vengeance lifts the veil.